my name is Kush and I am a senior apprenticeship manager working with Frimley ICB, and my role is to support general GP practices. So what we'll be going over today is a range of, just to showcase to you the range of digital apprenticeship programs and then quality related programs, and there are so many, so I won't be going over all of them, but what I've done is pulled out the ones that we feel are more relevant to GP practices, and I'm joined by Gemma and Miranda today, who will spend a few minutes going over their experiences of that as well. In case you're not familiar with the apprenticeship agenda, or opportunities, I should say, it's really important to say that there are actually 700 apprenticeship programs available out there, so it's a lot to navigate. Apprenticeships are not just for young people, they are for anyone who is working age. Okay, so in the NHS, our average apprenticeship age is around the mid-30s. Okay, so it's brilliant for young people, but actually it's for anybody. And there are levels 2, which is equivalent to GCSE, right through to level 7, which is your master's and postgraduate qualifications. And there is funding available for all of these programs, and some incentives as well. And while I talk to you today on the 6th of November, there is government policy change coming on this. So just keep, for anybody watching this back, just keep an eye on what the rules and regulations are at the time that you are looking for an apprenticeship. So first of all, the digital programs. So this is the apprenticeship page that hosts all those 700 apprenticeships, but I've clicked on digital and it comes up, you can see the range of different programs. So digital forensic technician, learning designer, and the list goes through. Okay. If I just switch back to my slides, the ones I've pulled out 3 different types of programs. So data technician being the first one, and this is the program that Miranda is on. So the duration, it takes about 18 to 24 months, depending on how quickly you get through the program. But it's a really interesting one for general practice, because what you're learning to do is look at your different sources of data, learn how to format and present that data securely in a way that can be used for analysis. So you are doing some analysis, but you're also what you're learning to do more so is preparing that data for analysis. You communicate outcomes appropriately to your different audiences. So that might be through storytelling or visualization, because, you know, if you just dump your data on a slide, not everyone's going to receive it in the same way. So it's about effective communication of that data. It is about blending data from different sources. So in general practice, you have EMIS and different platforms where you will get your data from. And it's about how you can usefully blend that data. Probably it's Excel spreadsheets and things like that as well. And then analysing both simple and complex data to support business outcomes. So you are reaching into that analysis, those analytical skills as well. Who is it useful for? So it can be both an existing employee or a new employee, somebody who has regular access to data sources. So what we find in general practice, you're not going to have IT, you know, people sitting in IT roles or specifically in data roles, but you might have experienced administrators or other roles that do have regular access to data. They've got an interest in data. They have that methodical approach. So as long as they've got access to regular data sources and they can be given this time to work on the evidence that they need for the apprenticeship, then this program would work. So at that point then, can I bring in Miranda, if I can get you to share the program that you're doing, and kind of how it's benefiting you and your job role? That would be great as well.
So I'm the business practice manager. And I'm doing this apprenticeship, the data technician level 3. I started in June, and the time frame is based on how many hours you do. So whether you're part-time, full-time, and then they work out the course length based on how many hours you could then devote to the course in your normal day-to-day, because you're expected to do work whilst you're at work, if that makes sense. So there's 6 modules in this course. I'm currently in the middle of module 2, and it's very progressively gets more complex as you go through the modules. So you're not flung in the deep end. They actually expect you to have no experience of Excel really. So anything you have I do, which has made it easier for me, but they go back quite basic at the very beginning. You're even, told how to open an Excel file. And then it just gets progressively more complex, looking at how to analyze data within Excel, importing data from different sources, and things like that. It's going to be very useful for me by the end, because it will allow me to, and I get a lot of data, so I'll be able to analyze to minute how we're doing as a practice in specific areas. So we're discussing that with my digital learning consultant. I must say the platform that we do it on, which is QA, is brilliant. It's really easy to use. The support you get through your tutor, for want of another word, is really good. They're always on hand. If you've got questions, you can have little drop-in chats. I did last week just because I had a question and I needed a bit of clarity. And then you have monthly, or sort of every term, every 3 months or so, you'll have a proper an hour catch-up, which is with you, your digital learning consultant, and your manager, so that your manager's aware of the workload, and just to check in that everyone's still on the same page. Was there anything else that you needed to?
No, that's absolutely fantastic. Okay. Yeah, that's really, really helpful, because it's always good to hear it from somebody actually doing the programme. So that's really brilliant insight. So moving on then, on to the data analyst level 4 programmes. So which is obviously the next level up from what Miranda is doing currently. And in this, naturally, you will be learning again as more advanced abilities to source, format, present the data, and document and report the results of data analysis activities. And the key behind this is that you are really helping making an impact on those business decisions. So you're helping that your PCNs, primary care network, or your practices to make better business decisions. So if you think about population health data, you might be connecting with Frimley ICB's connected care. You might be using Power BI tools to kind of see what the current state of play is and what's coming up around in the future. And then that relates to the different things that you need to do around maybe the type of workforce you need, or the skills that the workforce need, or the tasks and how things will change. So you really making an impact on how that data is used. Those are the two on the data. And then the other one that some practices are now beginning to explore is the digital technician level 3. And this program is more about the practical aspects of IT support. So it's learning the everyday technical challenges, implementing digital solutions where possible, and maximising the effective use of digital technologies. So this is a level 3 program. So same as Miranda, this is equivalent to A levels if you're just trying to get around in your head the complexity of the program. There's 2 pathways within this particular apprenticeship, and the one that I feel is more relevant for, especially for practices, is the digital applications technician, which is where you help the internal users, so colleagues. You help them to often these people work as digital champions. They offer training and support to colleagues, make the best use of the digital tools and diagnose problems, provide internal application support. So somebody new coming in, or somebody who's more experienced but struggling with something like EMIS, for example, or the many other systems that you use. And they might also be assisting with change projects that you might have going on in your practice or PCN. But there is a second pathway, might be more relevant for the larger PCNs or federations, which is the digital service technician. And that's more external facing. So it's helping your patient community, giving them some coaching and support on using the digital platforms. and helping them to complete and submit data remotely. So you can see how this pathway, as primary care grows to use more digital technology and helps our patient population to become more digitally savvy, there might be a role for something like this within a larger PCN or a federation. Okay, so from there, I'm going to move on to quality. So the typical roles that people who work in these types of roles that I'm going to mention might be interested in some of these apprenticeship programs for their development and for their progression. So it might be your business managers, quality and improvement roles, compliance roles, project support and project managers. There's also a role within primary care called digital and transformation lead roles. So some of these will lend themselves to somebody who's working towards that role. So the first three I've put there are data protection and information governance practitioner. So if you think about all the compliance that you have to do towards CQC, and I'm sure there are other compliance frameworks that you have to adhere to as well. So larger practices, PCNs, will have somebody whose job it is to make sure that your processes are compliant, but that also you're on top of your data protection. You might have a data protection officer, somebody like that. So a very useful program for that. And then we have improvement technician and improvement practitioner. So this is where I'm going to bring Gemma on the call just for Gemma. So if you can share with us the apprenticeship program that you are studying, and again, how it's going and the kind of benefits that you're finding.
Yeah, sure. So I am doing the improvement practitioner level 4. I work for Surrey Heath PCN. My role is quality and improvement support officer. So it's been really good to give me a foundation in that role. I think it's an 18-month course or 14 months, I think you put there. I think it's 5 modules. I started in May, so I'm 2 modules in. It's definitely picking up in speed and like depth of knowledge. Yeah, it's been really, really handy for my role, and it's based around sort of identifying things that can be improved. So sort of taking problems in all manner of things, and then approaching those in a structured approach to work out what the problem is, what the cause of that problem is, and then how, like looking at the data to see if that backs it up, and then basically how you can change and improve from there. It's been really good so far. It's definitely sort of benefited us as an organisation already. And yeah, it's really good. It's all through online lessons that we do pretty much each week, and then project portfolio work that over the period of time of the apprenticeship, you kind of have to be doing coursework as you go, and then you're doing a live project. So it's really cool. So you get to really kind of put everything you're learning into action as you go. And then, yeah, you kind of, proof is in the pudding at the end of the apprenticeship, really. So yeah, I definitely recommend it.
Brilliant. Sounds like it's really, really useful for your organisation. And again, given the world that we're in of transformation, it's so useful to have somebody who's dedicated, to be able to do those, look at all your not all your processes. You can't change every single process in one go, but having that methodology to make sure that whatever change you bring in is going to be sustainable. And those are the sort of skills that you're picking up, as you go along. So there is a level 3 and there is a level 4 program as well in this space. Gemma, thank you so much for joining us. So then just to bring you on to the next set of programs. So we have the business analyst, where somebody's looking to improve their information system. So there are some links here, but when you click on those links and look at the actual apprenticeship programs, you'll see where the clear differences are. And this is a business analyst that can be used to develop somebody towards that digital and transformation lead role as well. And then I put these 2 in there as well, associate project manager and project manager degree. And the path you choose depends on really where you're starting from. Typically, it'd be somebody who is working on projects as part of their day job, and they have access to the start of the project and also to see it through to the end as well. would be really helpful. So just some information there just to kind of get you thinking. And when you click on the links and then follow them through and have a look at other related apprenticeships, you'll see that there are even more programs that might be useful for somebody within your organisation, within your settings. So just to move on to entry requirements for all apprenticeships. Generally, so for all apprenticeships, the individual would need to complete their English and maths to the equivalent of a GCSE grade C, or in new terms, level 4 and above, or they could do a functional skills programme in these subjects. Some people will say, yeah, but I've got a degree in, let's take pharmacy, okay, being a very relevant example for this group, which is great, but what you actually need is the actual certificates of, you know, any related maths or English. So they could have a degree in English, A levels in English, GCSE in English, and all of those are fine, but those are the specific subjects that we need to see. Now, if somebody hasn't got those, depending on the level of program that you're doing, for many programs, you will be able to get onto the apprenticeship and complete and study the English and maths alongside. And our advice to that is really have a think about the time pressure and where you're starting on your functional skills journey. If you've got a long way to go, be realistic about trying to study both maths and English and your apprenticeship and work and have a life. So it's worthwhile having a discussion with somebody before you go down that journey. For some programs, you will absolutely need the qualifications before you start on the program, because you need to be working at a level where you will be able to turn around assignments and work to a certain level. So, for example, on a degree program. But there is some support if you've lost certificates, for example, if you need to get your functional skills before you start the apprenticeship. We do have local support to help you with that. You need to be a resident of the UK or England for 3 years or more, or be on an eligible residency scheme, be 16 or over. And for all apprenticeships, so Miranda mentioned the 6 hours of learning. All apprenticeships require something that's called off-the-job training. What that actually means is you will have workshops, self-study, e-learning, various ways that you will gain learning. But what you're also gaining is learning from the tasks that you're doing at work. And where this is new, okay, that also counts towards this off-the-job learning. So let's take Gemma's example of a process improvement. The first time she's doing something at work, but the first time she's learning those skills and applying them in terms of dissecting what the problem is, diagnosing, and then going through that whole process. Yes, she's doing a job at work, but she is still learning. So there's things in there that can be used for learning, your learning time, that make up those 6 hours. Some programs, usually the clinical apprenticeships, a lot of that is taken up by, training days at university, for example. So it works differently for different programs. So before you embark on this, it's really worth thinking through the time and space that your employer will need to give you and how you can achieve that during your working time. Your supervisor will need to attend something called a tripart review meeting. Again, Miranda mentioned in her program it's every 3 months, and that's a really useful meeting for your managers to be involved with. And then just a note on there on visas and fixed term contracts. Funding. So apprenticeships are funded, and there are various ways that's achieved. For general practice, generally, because we are smaller employers and generally we don't pay the apprenticeship levy, what that means is for somebody under the age of 21, and there are some flexibilities around that, the programs are fully funded. So if we take a degree program, which is generally about anywhere between £23,000 to £27,000, that will be fully funded by the government. If you're over that age threshold, you can ask for the cost to be fully funded by a larger organisation who hasn't spent all of their levy, and we can help you facilitate that. Or you enter what's called government co-funding, where you only pay 5% of those fees. Okay, so it's just an example there. And then finally, how to get started. So there are links to apprenticeship training courses. So if you think, yeah, okay, I want to look into project management, you click on that link and it will take, and you type in project manager. You have a look at who's delivering local to your area. So there are local training providers, there are colleges, there are universities, and then there are national training providers as well. And there's a couple of other links on there that your practice managers will need to have in order to set up the funding. But quite honestly, there is a lot of support in this area. So across the Thames Valley. So if don't get stuck if you're trying to navigate this all by yourself. You've got the links there. But Alina and I are here to support you on that journey as well. And quite often it's really good to have a conversation before you make a decision. I'll come to Q&As in a minute. These are some links of our previous webinars that we've run in case you missed them. So some interesting topics on things like pharmacy technician, management and leadership training, and a couple of other ones there.